Hi, my name is Amy Lindblom, and I chose to do the survey routine for students with reading disabilities. As classroom inclusion and diversity continues to increase, the importance of using modifications for curriculum also increases. Classrooms are not composed of homogeneous groups of students with the same abilities and intelligences. Students with different abilities and background knowledge provide a unique challenge for teachers. These teachers must be able to communicate and help all students understand the same information, often using the same sources. One of the problems with this is that textbooks are used and not all students have the same reading ability. The reason I chose this routine is because textbooks are becoming an increasingly large obstacle for students with reading disabilities in content area classrooms. These students do not have the ability to extract the important information and pull out essential details from the textbook and organize them. These students merely struggle to get through a chapter of reading. So when the instruction for the class is focused on textbook instruction, then these students are not able to gain the same information that their classmates are, and it puts them further behind. American education is textbook dominated. Although instructors are expected to be knowledgeable in their area of instruction, they often rely on textbooks to give students both an overview of a topic and an in-depth explanation. One of the problems with this is that textbooks are written above grade level. This puts students who are average readers and below average readers at a great disadvantage for being able to understand the material that they are covering in class. Content area reading has become an especially big issue. Since success has become increasingly dependent on the ability to read and interpret expository text, students who have learning disabilities are at an extreme disadvantage in content area classrooms such as science, history, and social studies. The amount of reading and information students are expected to gain from these texts can be overwhelming, especially for a student who struggles with basic reading. While these students may have the ability to understand the concepts they're covering in class, they may not have the ability to get through the text. So while other students may be able to read the text and understand the concepts that are happening, these students are merely trying to get to the end of the chapter successfully. Students with learning disabilities often struggle in content area classes where textbooks are the main source used for information. The TRIMS worksheet is the visual device used in the survey routine. This worksheet has 5 sections. The first section is the title section, and it's where the student includes the name of the chapter that they're about to read and a prediction about what the chapter will be about. This helps students start to think about what they'll be reading and think about the concepts they'll be covering. The next section is the relationships section. This step allows students to gain an understanding of what the chapter is about that they're covering and how it relates to what they previously read, the unit they're covering, and what they'll be covering next. This helps students with inference skills and helps them connect their knowledge they're about to gain to previous knowledge, which is helpful in learning. The introduction section is where students read the introductory paragraph and basically summarize it, write a sentence or two about what the introduction says. This is also helpful for students to understand and know what they will be covering. Hopefully, the textbook they're reading has a good introductory section. The main parts is basically the meat of the worksheet. This is where students will divide the chapter up into sections and pull out key terms, vocabulary, key ideas, questions they might have, draw diagrams, basically help them summarize that section of each chapter, and they'll be divided up into smaller chunks so the student's able to see it organized better. The last section is the summary or critical question section. This is a section where a student can read the summary paragraph of the chapter and summarize that paragraph, or they can look back at the material they've covered and summarize that material, or they can ask critical questions related to the material. This is an example of what the TRIMS sheet can look like. A teacher can also modify it to fit their needs or the needs of their students if necessary. They can also add more main parts, so there's more than just 3, if that's what the chapter calls for. The skills used in the TRIMS worksheet allow students to extract information, organize it, and analyze it. For a student that's merely struggling with reading, they aren't able to extract Without that, they're not able to organize, and they certainly can't reach the analytical stage of learning. I'm going to cover next a few ways to implement this into the classroom. Although I haven't actually taught yet, I'll be student teaching in the spring, and I think this could be very valuable. I'll be teaching agricultural science, which can have some more advanced textbooks and cover some more advanced topics. One way to help students remember to use the TRIMS worksheet is to tape a note card to the inside of their textbook that says TRIMS on it. That way, each time the student goes to read the textbook, hopefully they'll see this note card and will remind them to use the worksheet to help them understand and read the chapters more effectively. There are ways that the TRIMS worksheet can be used both inside and outside of the classroom. First, I will be covering ways this worksheet can be used inside the classroom to help students learn both individually and as a class. One way the TRIMS worksheet can be used inside the classroom is for the class to read and discuss the chapter together. This can be done in a variety of different ways. First off, students can work in groups of 4 or 5. They can each be assigned a different section under the main parts to work together, read, talk about, and pull out key ideas. They can also work together to come up with a paraphrase for the title, a summary statement, or an introduction statement. Another method that can be used is the think, pair, share method. Students can write down possible answers for all the sections and share them with a partner. Once they have done this, they can then share them with the class. This can help other students to hear what others have thought about the chapter, ideas they have come up with, and important things that have stuck out to them. Sometimes it helps to hear another person's perspective. Finally, the class can discuss the chapter together. The student can leave the discussion on a board or an overhead and help the class come together and work on coming up with one answer for each of the sections. She can take ideas from different students. This may not be as effective as think, pair, share because students may not have had time to work on it on their own, but for a more outspoken class discussion might be just as effective. Another way this can be used in the classroom is as a review for a test. Students can fill this worksheet out as a class, led by the teacher. They can fill it out individually or they can fill it out in partners. This helps students go back over the chapter and maybe pick up key concepts that they need to remember for the tests or remind them of things they haven't learned. They can also use a worksheet they previously filled out to go back and look at key parts of the chapter. In the corner of the worksheet, in the main parts section, students write down the page number where they found the information, so that can help them to go directly to the page if they have any question about the information they've written down. This worksheet can also be put to use outside of the classroom, ideally after you have instructed the student thoroughly on how to use it and you've modeled it for them so they've had opportunities to practice and then can on their own outside the classroom. One way this can be done is to have a student read a chapter at home independently and fill out the worksheet. This may take some time. It may be an assignment over a couple of days to have them work on, so it's not overwhelming in one night to read the chapter and fill out the worksheet, but it can be an assignment for the week just to read a section at a time and work on the worksheet. This can be one way to not use all the class time to cover the reading, but maybe discuss it later when they bring the worksheet to class. Another way the TRIMS worksheet can be used outside the classroom is completed at home as a test review for the chapter. A student can take the worksheet home and use it to go over the chapter they're studying for the test the next day or the day after. This can help remind them to pull out key concepts and ideas that they'll be tested over. Since the current education system emphasizes the use of textbooks, it is essential that students and teachers are equipped with devices and methods that can help students learn from the materials available. At this time, content enhancement routines and other strategies are a more feasible option for modifying curriculum than changing the textbooks. Sadly, funding and resources for education are limited, and this makes it crucial for teachers to be able to use simple devices to help students understand new concepts and gain material from textbooks. Graphic organizers like the survey routine play an important role in this process. In conclusion, as a future ag science teacher, I think the survey routine will be extremely useful in the classroom. Not only can it help students who struggle with reading, it can also be a beneficial study tool for those who excel at reading. The TRIMS worksheet helps students extract important information and organize it, which allows them to analyze it later or use it to review and study for tests. Overall, I think this can definitely help an education system that is textbook dominated.